Today, thousands of people from all over the world come to this ancient city of Ephesus. They come to view the spectacular relics, to buy t-shirts for their grandkids, and little images to the goddess Artemis, who was worshipped here 2,000 years ago. But 2,000 years ago, people came to Ephesus for a whole different reason. From every corner of the globe, people came because this was a world-class city. It's like our New York or Singapore, Paris or Beijing. It was the center of the cult worship to Artemis. Pilgrims came to this massive temple that was one of the 7 wonders of the world. And in this city, there was a group of followers of Jesus Christ. This church planted here thrived in the midst of this pagan environment. Headliners like Paul were here for 2.5 years, the Apostle John and Timothy. And interestingly enough, the letters that Jesus wrote to the churches of Asia Minor, the very first letter he wrote was a letter to this church in the city of Ephesus.
What you see, write in a book and send it to the 7 churches which are in Asia, to Ephesus, to Smyrna, to Pergamos, to Thyatira, to Sardis, to Philadelphia, and to Laodicea. Then I turned to see the voice that spoke, and having turned, I saw 7 golden lampstands, and in the midst of the 7 lampstands, one like the Son of Man. To the angel of the church of Ephesus write, These things says he who holds the 7 stars in his right hand, who walks in the midst of the 7 golden lampstands. I know your works, your labor, your patience, and that you cannot bear those who are evil. And you have tested those who say they are apostles and are not, and have found them liars. And you have persevered and have patience, and have labored for my name's sake, and have not become weary. Nevertheless, I have this against you, that you have left your first love. Remember, therefore, from where you have fallen, repent and do the first works. I will come to you quickly and remove your lampstand from its place, unless you repent. But this you have, that you hate the deeds of the Nicolaitans, which I also hate. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To him who overcomes, I will give to eat from the tree of life, which is in the midst of the paradise of God.
These are the kinds of spectacular ruins that tourists come from all over the world to see. But for early Christians walking through this plaza, this was the library, one of the greatest libraries in the world, reminding them that they were in an intellectual center. As they would walk through these archways, they would see over the top the inscription to Caesar Augustus, who is God? And it would remind them of the worship of the emperors that created so much tension in their lives. Just over here is the town brothel right out in the public, which would again remind them of the seduction of the rampant sexual immorality in Ephesus. But through those arches is where the action really happened, the town market, the Agora. The Agora was the most important trade center in Ephesus. It was in the form of a large square, surrounded by columns, with 3 gates. I've entered through the gate from the Celsus Library. 3 sides of the Agora were surrounded by a portico that held the shops doing business in this commercial center. Ephesus was a port city, and goods from all over the known world were sold right here in this place. No city tells us what life was like for early Christians in the Roman Empire like the city of Ephesus. Ephesus was affluent. It sat on the edge of a major seaport. So trade from literally all over the known world parked its ships in the seaport and filled the city with goods that were much coveted by people who came from land routes. Trade routes on land ended up here in Ephesus. So Ephesus was a rich town, and it was very cosmopolitan. People from all over the world lived here, Jews and Gentiles and Persians, and most of the activity that was significant took place right here in the Agora, or the marketplace. The agora would have been filled with the fragrant aromas of spices from far and distant lands, with the beautiful colors of textiles that had been woven and brought here for sale. People would gather here socially. I mean, this was like a mall on steroids, really. This was the center of life in Ephesus and the center of life in most cities in the Roman Empire. And so what would happen here would be largely determinative of the social interactions and status of early Christians. Of course, one challenge was that at the entrance to the agora was an incense burner. In order to enter the agora on good terms, you had to take a little incense as an act of loyalty to the emperor, who claimed to be Lord, and drop it in the incense burners. Christians struggled with that. It was tough to navigate that. To be shut out of the agora meant to be shut out of so much of life. But that was the challenge for them.